said. Speaking of which, Trill has defeated me pretty much every time we've done Pick'em all 3 years when we do our over-under spreads. So I am going to victory lap defeating you in the Pick'em for
the play-in.
The play-in.
You went 3-1 and I went 2-2.
Yeah. So unfortunately, actually, wait. No, I think if Memphis, did you pick Memphis? You picked Memphis to make the 8 seed, right? You picked them to beat whoever comes out of that, right?
I did. I think so.
Oh, so you could still even things up then.
No, I didn't. I picked the Kings. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I said my feel for this play-in was wrong because my feel was the teams that had the most sour vibes would just give up if they went down, which I do think was a little bit true with Atlanta. And I think it was a little bit true. I didn't realize that the Kings vibes were also horrendous. And also just Dallas is, I mean, I don't know how they won that game playing the personnel that they played. They literally didn't have any guards and they won still somehow.
I think that's more of a referendum on the Kings just being turbo ass.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I didn't factor in the fact that the Kings also had horrendous vibes and the Bulls are still the Bulls. So those are the levels that I think that I failed to register when we talked about these things, where these teams that are kind of stuck in mediocrity, it feels like their fate every year will be just getting to the play-in and losing, whether it's in the first game or the second game. They will just never, like, I think that they're just stuck in this time loop. And 2022, 2023 was the one year that they were able to break that loop, and now they're just sent back into it for infinity because of the decisions that are made by their front offices.
Luckily they did a very thorough and this is like a chance, right? So they now that they've fired Monty McNair, they get a chance to, hit a reset button. So it's definitely, they want to take their time,
do a wide search,
make sure you're getting the best personnel in. So I think, we can probably expect this process to take a couple of months. There's no need to rush it. And
probably
hold on.
Did they get did they interview a nice young up and comer, maybe in like the Thunder or the Celtics front office?
No. They hired someone 12 hours after firing Monty McNair, who worked for the Pistons and Knicks. So amazing.
Let's put a caveat on that. The Pistons and the Knicks when they were the Pistons and the Knicks.
Yes.
not the last year or two when they finally got their shit together.
It's yeah, man. I feel so bad for Kings fans, man. Like they are, because at least Dallas fans at least got to go to the finals. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Western Conference Finals. They won a finals in 2011. Like, things are obviously not ideal there. I'm not going to act like things are great, but they had glory days.
They had glory days. Like even like it sucks to like lose your franchise star like 4 years in, but like you're also coming off of like, the era beforehand. You won a title in 2010. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not that far behind you, like I guess if you're a younger viewer, you probably don't remember it, but like everyone, that was probably the greatest. That's probably the single title where the whole NBA was behind a team the most, I would say, because that first Heat, everyone hated that fucking Heat.
Everyone was mad because they made the super team with Miami. Yeah. Everyone was pulling for Dirk because he was like seen as like kind of like a choker and a loser to that point in his career. Yeah. And they had a bunch of like ragtag veterans who had never gotten a chance to win a ring.
Yeah.
And it was very much a collective effort in winning that championship. Like, I feel like we haven't really seen a team quite like that ever since. And honestly, I think probably the closest comp would have been the Warriors in 2022 when it was like Steph and then just a bunch of really good role players.
Yeah.
But
that's a good call. That's probably like exactly what it was like, to be totally honest. It's
but
similar. Yeah.
It's an outlier championship.
Right.
And they have one of the most feel-good stories, whereas the Kings glory days, we're now reaching over 20. We're in the 20 to 25 year range since it was their glory days. And their glory days ended with them getting fucked by the league and Tim Donaghy and the refs in favor of the Lakers in a game 6 that they should have won against the Lakers to get to an NBA Finals. They've never been to a finals. They've only made it to the Western Conference Finals. They had the longest playoff drought ever. They finally break that streak. They get the 3 seed. They have all these good vibes.
We're lighting the beam.
And now we're back. We're back to square one with the Kings, where it's just Vivek has stepped in, and Zach Lowe said today that Monty McNair didn't want to fire Mike Brown, was not okay with trading De'Aaron Fox, and was clearly not in charge for the last year. It sounds like, whether you want to believe that Jeremy Lamb conspiracy theory that he's the shadow GM because he's dating Vivek's daughter, or you want to believe that Vivek himself is running it with Vlade Divac behind closed doors, or whatever you choose to believe, the organizational incompetence will just never end with the Kings. And it is, once again, back to square one, but also just like when they talked about it on the Zach podcast that I just listened to, they were like, they went from being like, man, here's like a piece of hope, something to look forward to 2 years ago, to just completely flipping on its head in 2 years because they sat on their hands and did nothing. And then they went too far in the opposite direction, overreacting to all of that. And now they're just stuck in the middle again.
Yeah. And I just like, they've never had, well, the closest they ever came to a franchise star since I've been watching the NBA was Boogie Cousins. I would argue, like, I mean, do you think Fox, who do you think was like a better at their peak, like Fox or Boogie? Like probably Boogie, right?
I mean, sure. I mean, it's debatable.
Yeah.
The Halliburton fumble is the real thing. Is they just should have kept Halliburton.
Yeah. I mean, that's
we've known that for years, though. Yeah. I mean, that's not any new information. But I literally got tagged in a post from a Pacers fan that I had 2 years ago when everyone was telling me that I was wrong about the Sabonis Halliburton trade. And I said, I swear to God, I commented and said, check back on this post in 2 years. And someone tagged me this morning and said, it's been 2 years. And I was like, I mean, this is just obviously going to happen. Like, if your organization is rotted at the core in the way that the Kings are, and it comes from ownership down, this is just an inevitable cycle that you will find yourself in consistently until you break that cycle, until he steps back from being involved with basketball operations and let someone that knows what they're doing run the show and doesn't have oversight all the time.
They need like, you do need to like have like at least like one drafted star that you're like kind of building around. And the thing was, like, Fox kind of was that star, you know. He was like, by the end, he was like kind of, I don't think he ever made all NBA, but like when he was good, he was like kind of a little, he was in those conversations.
He was on the fringe. Yeah.
Yeah. He was in those conversations.
He could have made a third team.
Yeah. I know. And I guess Sabonis like did make all NBA, but like the thing is, you brought in Sabonis, who just doesn't work with De'Aaron Fox, like in any way, shape, or form. You know.
Well, I mean, he doesn't work with any team that has goals of winning playoff series.
That's also true.
That's just always been the reality with him. Their best case was 2 years ago, where they got to 7 games. They probably should have won that series, and that is the only chance in Sabonis's career that he'll probably ever have to win a playoff series. He has never won one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he might have when he was a rookie on that OKC team, but he was not a big part of the team.
He wasn't a contributor. Yeah.
As the core piece, if Sabonis is one of your 2 best players, which he almost has to be just by the function of the way that he plays basketball.
Yeah.
Then there's just no way that you're winning a playoff series in today. And I feel bad because it's like you want to reward guys who are really good in the regular season and like actually try and like give a shit on every night. This was the first season in a while where he hasn't played like all 82 games.
Yeah.
But it ultimately just comes down to like, if you have a big who's a non-shooter, who has to have the offense run through him, who has defensive question marks, who's not a rim protector, who doesn't switch onto the perimeter, like there is going to be a ceiling to your team, and you can try to build around all those weaknesses. And I don't even think they did a great job building around all those weaknesses, to be clear. They've gotten one good wing in Keegan Murray, and he's like fine. Like he's, from the second that pick was made, it was always like, we know Keegan Murray's going to be an NBA player for 10 years. He's probably not any better than Harrison Barnes, who was already on the team. And that so far is at least proven to be a little bit true. And it feels like we're just going to keep getting these kind of picks where, like, think about the picks that they made. Remove the Halliburton pick, which they absolutely nailed and should get credit for taking him in the first place, especially getting him where they did in that draft. It was like the 12th pick and the 13th pick of the draft. Great value, obviously one of the best players from that draft. Outside of that, Davion Mitchell, high floor, low ceiling, or not even high floor, just a low ceiling player. He was 22 on the night of the draft.
Yeah.
Is not someone who was ever going to be a star in the NBA.
Also overlapped with what they had already, like in a lot of ways. Like,
I mean, they had Halliburton and Fox at the time, and they drafted when there were other better players on the board. Whether it's, if you want to go with the big names that were on the board, like Şengün and Jalen Johnson and Trey Murphy, or if you want to go smaller even and say like Moses Moody would have helped them more than Davion Mitchell. But there's that, and then there's even like look, I like Devin Carter before the draft, but also like I think if you're moving into a new era where you're considering moving on from De'Aaron Fox, like I don't really know what the plan is from year to year for them, other than let's take the safest guy who's available on the board. And that seems to have always been the plan.
And that always
even Halliburton was a little bit of a
Halliburton
was a little bit of a safe pick too.
Yeah,
the fact that he's gotten as good as he has is kind of insane.
No, it is. No, he's like I'm trying to think of like a comp because that's happened before. I think Donovan Mitchell is probably the closest thing we have to that. Like where Donovan Mitchell was similarly seen as like a
Franz Wagner too. Those are the three.
Yeah, like high floor, like high floor guy. Like this guy's
role player, good role player.
Good role player. This guy's not going to fail. And then they just blow that away and like turn into like all NBA players. Like,
but I was going to say, but that is once again, the Halliburton pick was not seen as this guy was going to become a future superstar by any means. But now they lost. They'll probably end up having the 14th pick in the draft, which is going to go to the Atlanta Hawks. And then I don't even know if they have a first round pick. No, they don't. They have no first round pick this year if it ends up, because it was top 12 protected. So if their pick ends up 13 or 14, which it almost certainly is because they're in the Western Conference and their record's a little bit better than the Eastern Conference teams, then we're looking at a situation where they're going to have no first round pick. And what do you do with this roster? What do you do with Sabonis?
You trade DeMar DeRozan, who has a lot of trade value.
1 year left on his deal. Zach LaVine, I guess you just ride out that now, even though they're not going to have a good enough team that Zach LaVine will even matter.
Sabonis, the league has gotten to see what Sabonis looks like in the playoffs. Good luck finding anything close to value if you do want to like move on from Sabonis. Like, I don't even know how you would do that. Like,
Kyle, turn the TikTok camera on. Who just got hired by the Sacramento Kings?
I don't even remember his
Scott
name.
Perry.
Scott Perry, yeah.
Who worked for what organizations?
The Knicks and the Detroit, right?
And who was the guy running the show for Detroit?
But in the 2000s, I believe that was one Mr. Dumars, who is now the vice president of the team. And
Mr. Two Phones Joe?
Two Phones Joe. He got 2 phones.
Can we do a little Sabonis for Zion challenge trade?
Oh my God. I honestly think the Kings would win that. I don't think the Pelicans. I would, first off, safety check on Richard, our friend Richard Normal. I would would be horrific.
Hey, you get some organizational stability in New Orleans. Sabonis doesn't miss games, and he's not making headlines. That's all Gail Benson cares about, is that there aren't rumors going around about him.
I will say, if Sabonis went there for Zion and he couldn't work there, he can't work anywhere, because that is about as close as you can get to a perfect situation for him.
Sabonis adding in like defensive pieces around him.
Yeah.
And having some spacing around him, and
like if Yves Missy can like turn himself into like a 3-point shooter and like you can try like double. I doubt that can happen. but there's just, they've got Herb and Trey Murphy, and like if DeJounte, whatever, you could also have the times when I despise DeJounte. I think they should trade him immediately. But you could have Alvarado like running your point. Like I think it'd be
This is
interesting.
the most perverted conversation we've ever had, I think.
This is like really.
We
really
went to a game where we saw Alvarado run the offense. It's not
he,
gonna
he was pretty good. I thought he was pretty good. Like
against the Sixers third string guys.
Yeah.
I watched their offense down the stretch of the season with Alvarado running the show, and that would be the worst offense in the NBA.
It'd be fine. I believe in you, Jose. It wasn't his fault.
Jose's fine as a role player. He's just not. He's not a run your offense point guard.
Yeah, I mean, no. But to be fair though, I think also if you are running there's like 3 players in the NBA you can run offense through. I think in the playoffs though.
Sure, but I'm talking about the regular season. Even this is not. We're not having playoff conversations. You're trading for Sabonis. Why are we having playoff
I guess
conversations?
That's true. Fair enough.
What? Yeah. Like that? That's ultimately. Hey, we might win 45 games and we'll probably lose in the play-in, or maybe we get the 6th seed.
How about this? To the Grizzlies for some sort of Edie.
A few people have said this actually in the Discord. Yeah. I like that idea. I actually think that's the best idea.
Yeah.
Because I think about it like this. If you're the Kings, once again, they don't have their first round pick this year.
Yeah.
But they will have their picks moving forward after this.
Yeah.
So it's like, so what salary would that work with? Because that's the problem. The Grizzlies have expiring salaries. So Sabonis probably would work with JJJ.
Well,
to be clear, though.
you could be the third. The third team would just be whoever's trading for Ja Morant, and then you're getting whoever. Yeah.
Oh, I mean that's. Memphis is not trading Ja for Sabonis. I don't think that's happening.
Well, no, but there could be ancillary pieces. Like they're getting like some of the picks, and then the Kings are getting like, 2 starters or whatever.
I think so. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
The guys I think that are most likely to get traded outside of the obvious ones, like KD is definitely getting traded.
Yeah.
To me, the 2 guys that feel the most likely to be on the move this offseason are Zion and Sabonis. And the reason why is because Zion, we already had rumors come out the second
front office changes.
They had front office changes, and we immediately got a leak, and then they had to walk that back and blah, blah, blah. And then the Sabonis thing, he's literally been saying, what's our future look like? Like, what are we going to do? And he's constantly been asking, and this team just seemingly is always in flux, right? So I would look at it like those 2 are certainly going to be the most available. I think the Ja stuff is more wish casting from outside forces. I don't think that the Grizzlies are ready to give up on Ja Morant yet. I think they'll give him 1 more year to see if he can get healthy and get right, and then make a decision maybe a year from now. I just don't see a reason. They've never been an organization that's made big moves. They always take it slow, and he's been their guy for 5-6 years now. Yeah. So I just don't see a scenario in which they're moving on from Ja unless the pressure comes from Ja's camp himself. And it seems like the reason why they fired Taylor Jenkins was because Ja was not happy. So long story short here, I think that what you ultimately look at here is I think that that's every time I try to come up with a Grizzlies trade, I have a hard time because they just salary dump Marcus Smart to get expiring contracts to sign Santi Aldama this offseason.
Yeah.
So it's hard to make trades for them because of the fact that they did that, because they don't have much salary to trade.
Yeah.
So
it would have to involve Bane or Ja at that point.
So you could try to piece it together like Conchar, Edie, Brandon Clark, but then even then, you just can't get to the right number. So that's why I think that if they are to make a trade, I think I kind of like his fit a little bit on Memphis, to be honest with you.
I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the only front court partners that works with him.
Yeah, and Bane is another guy who will just space the floor, and defensively, if you have a Ja, Sabonis, Bane trio, it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
But JJJ, you're just hoping he can hold all the pieces together there. But I don't hate that idea, but I think that they're going to move forward with the Ja Edie thing and try to make that work in the next year or 2 before they make any major moves. So I want to talk just beyond the Kings, which seems like a little bit of a mess. Someone asked me, would I do PG for DeMar? I mean, maybe to get off the PG contract. I love DeMar, but I just don't I don't want to watch DeMar DeRozan play basketball for a full year on my team. Like I know
feel
that
like that's
it is like
tough
a
with the guards, the young guards.
honestly, I'll be honest, I would rather trade Paul George for Sabonis if I'm the Sixers. Why is that funny? We're not winning the championship. What does it matter?
Embiid. You have Joel Embiid. I know
Joel Embiid has won me.
I know, but like you can't do that. Like when Joel Embiid's like still on the team. Like,
I mean, they're not going to do it, but I'm saying
Yeah.
if I could trade for one of those two players, it would make more sense for the Sixers in their situation. Because let's be honest, we know Joel Embiid is probably cooked, and if he isn't, then yeah, you fucked up. But like, they wouldn't do it because of what it implies. To be clear,
Right.
but because their only chance to save their jobs is if he's healthy,
Right.
and
you can't give the game away there. Like,
but here's the thing. Sabonis, the reason why, and this was the argument that Ethan and me were making in the Discord last night, was that Sabonis would at least provide some offensive structure for Maxey and McCain as they develop over these next few years. Whereas Paul George is I think Paul George is a better player if you want to win a championship, just because of the things that he's better defensively. In theory, he should be a good role player. He just is not for some reason.
Yeah.
And once again, in theory, his fit would be way better with Joel Embiid if he were healthy. But also, guys like Paul George and DeMar DeRozan, while they're very good, talented basketball players, to me, they do nothing for young guys on your team. Like, they're not going to help those guys grow as players. Like, I think that you need someone that is either like a dribble handoff hub, like a Sabonis type, or you need someone that's just like a connector that will play off of the ball and make life easier for those guys. And those guys, while they're very talented individual scorers and all that, that's not good for your young players developing. And that's kind of where I'm at with the Sixers right now in their next steps that they take. But let's move on for the Kings, because the Kings are a mess, and we'll get into some of their stuff later. But I want to talk about the other team that was eliminated last night, which is the Chicago Bulls, who are also depressing, but not quite as depressing as they once were, I think, just because of the Buzelis pick. I think the Buzelis pick really makes it feel like, you got one of the 2 or 3 best players from this draft, potentially, and also a genuinely good young piece that you can build around.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I made a TikTok earlier today, and I was like, you actually planted this seed in my head.
Mm-hmm.
To me, in order for them to break out of this loop that they've been in for like a decade now, I think the thing that they should do is try to trade for Zion. I think and Zach said it on his podcast today, and I was fucking pissed that he was able to record this before I was able to say something. But what you brought up was a good idea, which was basically, if they are going to move forward and try to do all the same shit that they've always done, which is we're going to pay mid guys a lot of money. We're going to cap our ceiling at the 8th best team in the East.
Yeah.
And we're going to make it so that we're never high enough in the draft to draft a difference maker, at least a franchise player, like a number 1. Like, right. I think Buzelis is really good, but he's probably still your 2nd or 3rd best player if you're a good team. They have very few ways to have a pathway to get that difference maker.
Yes.
Trading for Zion is the ultimate upside swing in that regard, where you're trading for a guy who's instantly a difference maker if he's ever healthy. As you said, the flexibility of him and having the non-guarantees on his contracts make it so that you're not married to him for the next 3 years. You actually could just have him for a year or 2 and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then you just waive him. And at least you tried something different. And if all else goes wrong, try to add a little bit of protections to those picks that you're sending out, so that, because I'm assuming they don't have the players to match is the problem.
Yeah.
Because a lot of teams could just trade like a good player for Zion, and then it would just, or multiple solid players and a pick for Zion. But the Bulls are probably going to have to do a pick space package, and they would have to add protections to that.
Unless it's the Josh Giddey sign-in trade.
They're not going to want Josh Giddey. And also, the sign-in trade stuff is just so complicated under the new CBA. Although both of those teams are not any sort of apron.
They're not in the apron, which
is where it gets complicated. Yeah.
Which is where it's maybe the Pelicans are actually.
No, they have Bruce Brown's expiring.
Okay.
Yeah, because remember, one of the reasons why they traded Brandon Ingram was because they were near the tax. and they were trying to get under the tax. They got under the tax, and then Bruce Brown is expiring. And so they don't have they do have the Trey Murphy extension starting next year, which is like a decent amount of money, but I don't think they're close to the aprons.
Vooch, Kobe, and like
how many 2 firsts?
That
was my idea.
Yeah,
I was gonna
say I'm trying to think if I'm the Pelicans, like I just believe in everything else the Pelicans have, like so much. I really believe in Trey Murphy like quite a bit, and like
I understand you say this every time.
Yeah,
how good is Trey Murphy though? Like that's the thing. Is like
he's got that. I think he has. Like
I'm not saying he's not a good player, but I'm saying if you trade away your best player and he's your best player, how good is Trey Murphy?
I mean, he's probably like not very good, but
in the Western Conference.
Yeah. The thing is, which you want to do where you're at, like, because the Pelicans also still have not a lot of assets, but they still have some assets. Like they're still pick positive.
I think they're the best situation to inherit of any of these situations.
That's what I'm saying. Like
if they get with their new front office.
My plan, if I were in a front office, because they have the malleability, they're one of the only teams in the NBA that is set on the wing. And there are so many stars that you kind of can control the market a little bit if you're one of the buyers on like not the Giannis or the Booker, but like the next tier of guys. If OKC and Houston don't want a guy, you can kind of name your price if it comes time to like sell somebody and like get someone like that. Like, so
I had Andrew texted me yesterday, and I'm glad I didn't read this on the stream because I needed to read it on here. And there are certain organizations that just don't do those trades though. And they're one of them. Yeah. That's the thing is that I tried to say to him was like, I just don't believe that the Pelicans are going to trade for one of the 5 best players in the NBA. They never have, and they probably never will. Like there are certain organizations that know that they can't keep stars happy, and they're not going to take the risk of doing it. Their only way to be good is to build through the draft, and this Zion thing was their ticket out, and it would have worked if he just could have stayed healthy, and they avoided all the other stuff, but they just have not been able to. And so what he said was, let's say the Bucks get swept in the first round, and the Pels offer Zion, Herb Jones, your own 26 swap because they have the Bucks pick, and their 27 first back. So that's Zion, Herb Jones, and 2 first-round picks, basically, that the Bucks get back from the Drew Holiday trade for Giannis. And I was like, I don't think the Bucks would say yes, because I think the Bucks think they could probably do better. And then 2, I don't think the Pelicans would trade for Giannis. Like I just don't, until I see a Hornets, a Pelicans, one of these teams trade for one of those players, I'm just not going to. They can always trade for the DeJounte Murrays and the CJ McCollums.
I was going to say it's not that tier, but I think it's higher than that other tier. I'll tell you the corollary. Donovan Mitchell. It's a Donovan Mitchell type trade is like what the Pelicans are going to need to make. And that's
why I thought they should have been in a De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, I mean, De'Aaron, it's kind of it's like a little like eye of the beholder with like some of that stuff. Like, I'm trying to think of like who are the good young players who are like 2 years. What would that be? What would 6 years ago be? 2 years. The draft before Maxey. I think
2019.
2019.
A bad draft where they walked away with Zion, and the only other good players are like Garland and Hero. You know.
Yeah.
And then also Ja, who's in that weird situation in Memphis right now. Everyone said the Zion for Ja swap.
Yeah, I mean
Tyler Hero for
Zion.
I don't think Miami would do it. I
honestly don't think they would either, but which is insane to say right now. Like, I don't think they would do it.
You're trading the play-in GOAT for Zion Zion Williamson.
Okay, I can't cap. I was really impressed by Tyler Hero. Like, I'm falling for it again. Like, I fell for it again award on
Big news.
Big news. I'm falling for it again. I understand that. I was really impressed with Tyler Hero last night. I think like Zion, like to Miami would be like, I would be so fucking scared if that happened. Like, I think that Tyler Hero, honestly, I think Tyler Hero would do really well with that Pelicans team too. Like, I
don't disagree with that.
I think he would like, kind of with those guys facing the floor with Yves Missy like as his like dunk big. Like I think he could like kind of take another leap.
All
Like
right,
if
answer
you,
me this.
yeah,
Who was the last Miami Heat first round pick that they traded? That yeah.
Mario Chalmers. Oh, before the second contract, you mean?
No, he's on his second contract. But
Oh,
like if their picks work out, they don't trade those guys because this is what they do. They go, this is what Miami thinks they have the luxury, and historically they've been pretty accurate that they will get bailed out eventually. That a
mhm.
star will want to go there like Jimmy Butler did, and
Yeah,
they'll say the other team, like the Sixers traded for Jimmy Butler or the Wolves traded for Jimmy Butler, let them spend the assets.
yeah.
We'll have a plan to clear cap space, and then when they cut Zion in 2 years, we'll just sign Zion.
Sign him. Okay. Yeah. No,
That's
you're
that's what
probably
they
right.
do.
Yeah,
They
you're probably right.
the last first round pick they traded was was Justice Winslow.
Yeah. By the way, RIP. I loved him in that draft, dude. I was so sure he was going to be good. I was
Also,
like,
by the way, Justice Winslow got a second contract from the Heat. They that's the thing that I feel like everyone just they've been in every star trade for the last decade and they've never made one. The closest that you can say to making one is Kyle Lowry or Goran Dragic.
sorry, I'm laughing at Brandon's comment. I don't think I could read that on this stream right now, but it made me laugh. You got to be in here if you want to be able to read the read the stream comments. Sorry.
It's going to be on the YouTube. People will be able to see
Yeah,
it.
people on the YouTube will be able to read that. So
French Quarter Tyler Hero going to be looking like Mr. White Folks from Pimps Up, Hose Down. There you go. I'll read it.
That would be awesome. I would love to see the New Orleans like Tyler Hero fans. Man, I don't love that trade. That Pelicans. If the Pelicans just then again, Tyler Hero does get hurt.
All right, let me ask you,
too,
who do you
so.
think the best player they could get for Zion Williamson is? They just want to go player for player. Not Kobe White and Sabonis because, or I'm sorry, Kobe White and Vucevic. Like, let's say they're just like, we can go acquire a player for Zion Williamson and that team is willing to trade him to us and we are willing to accept that trade. Because I don't think that there's many players. So a injured guy for an injured guy.
Honestly, that's probably where this shakes. Like, I think that's probably the most realistic outcome. Like, when people are saying the jaw one, I think that's like way more realistic that it's that.
That is definitely a more realistic thing. We just talked about how these teams don't make those kind of trades, but they were interested in Zion at the draft 2 years ago. Remember they were interested in Brandon Ingram and Zion with that third pick, and they ended up using it on, or second pick, and they ended up using it on Brandon Miller. Mm-hmm. But I think the idea behind that was you put Zion and LaMelo together, and then the 20 games they play together is just electric.
Can I tell you the other one that I think is on the table?
Yeah.
But it's a little hard to make happen, so you'd have to get creative. I bet Conley's like looking at that with the Randall contract. So I bet Conley will make a call.
So that's the thing that every time that a star is out there, I'm sure someone has their eye on that kind of, ooh, can we trade? But also, like, Randall already played for the Pelicans.
Yeah.
This would be a second time playing for the Pelicans, obviously years apart.
Yeah. Known to the organization.
He only has 1 year left on his deal.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, was Scott Perry? Oh no, Scott Perry went to the Kings. Never mind. I was like, was Scott Perry with the Knicks when they signed him? I think he was, but anyway.
But I think you're getting like Rob Dillingham in that trade, to be clear. Like,
so it'd be like Randall, Rob Dillingham, and a first for Zion. Yeah, I mean, I would. Oh God, every Zion trade is just so gross, dude.
Yeah,
like they're just like this is approximate around the value I think he'll have, though. I don't think he's going to have crazy value.
Another one I just liked, Katrina mentioned. Lori, the pervert Danny Ainge. I like
that is a perfect reclamation project for him.
Yeah, like
they have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
they're going to be mid or bad or bad, not even mid, bad.
Yeah.
That, I mean, honestly, that does sound exactly up his alley.
Yeah, like the pervert Danny Ainge is, and what do we always talk about how like the Jazz have kind of blown their
Yeah.
rebuild because they don't have any like tentpole superstar. You know what I'm saying? Why not take the fucking Zion swing? Like, if it works, like you know what I'm saying? Like that saves your rebuild right there. Like,
Oh my God. I just love the idea that Zion is like, I'm unhappy in New Orleans and we're trading him to like Charlotte, Utah, like places that like he
sorry,
definitely would.
bro. If you wanted to be in New York, you had to play harder. I'm sorry. Like you had to
I don't
like,
think the Knicks would trade for him. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
obviously. Yeah.
If
That's
you
kind of
if you want to be in LA, gotta play harder. Because guess what?
Miami too.
Clippers aren't playing for it. Yeah, Miami's not doing that. Like,
Yeah. The one connection that you can say that Zion is from South Carolina. So the Charlotte thing might be seen as a bit of a homecoming. You know, it is at least in the Carolinas. He went to Duke. So that might not be something that is like completely implausible. But I don't know. I still think the Bulls are the team that should do it. And I would definitely trade Kobe White and Vooch and like 2 protected firsts to do it if they were willing to entertain that. I mean, the only problem is then who are you putting around Zion once you get him? It's like Buzelis, Zion, Patrick Williams, Giddey. It gets gross pretty quick.
man.
Because Giddey stinks. Like, I had people being like, well, why isn't everyone mad at Kobe White? I'm like, because Kobe White's been good for 2 years.
Yeah.
And also, Kobe White isn't talking to high schoolers.
And it also like Kobe White, like, we didn't all know Mickey. I'm sorry, this was the most predictable thing that like has ever happened. Like
even the stats were fake in the game last night.
Yeah, like,
we were screaming for a month and a half that this was fake, and then he was just stat padding at the end of this game.
It's the most like obnoxious thing ever. I'm sorry, like I can't have that conversation with anyone about like Josh Giddey. I'm sorry, like watch what happens when they give him a $30 million contract. Like this offseason. Just like watch what happens to the Bulls when that happens.
It's going to be instantly one of the worst contracts in the NBA.
Yeah. It just stamp this. Like there's no way. Like even if Josh Giddey's ceiling is Sabonis. Is like
and he's not even a center, so it's not even like
the
one thing about having a center as that limiting player is that it allows you to build out the rest of your roster around that player. You're really building your whole team around Josh Giddey.
Yes. Like it's so fucking, it's so obnoxious, dude. Like it's just not, it's not realistic. But I mean, here's the thing. Buzelis, I mean, this one of the hardest L's I've taken like in the draft, like in a while, because he like straight up just came in and could shoot. Which, you know, immediately that was like pretty apparent once he came in and like he could shoot, that because that was my whole thing that I was like really worried about for him. And he's been awesome. Like, and I think that he's got like, I think he like taps out like his ceiling, the absolute highest ceiling possible for him, I think is like all-star. Like he's not going to be like a great guy, but I think it's like possible he could get there. Like I'm really impressed with like the off the bounce, like juice stuff. But the thing is there's nothing else on the roster that is like,
I think I would make the argument.
Forward.
I think he has the highest ceiling of any player from this past draft based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Because like even like I think Richeche is going to be good, but he's not a creator.
Yeah,
he's just all of his buckets come on like low hanging fruit, like catch and shoot or advantage created for him. He doesn't create advantages. I think that Buzelis can create advantages, and that's the difference. And like if he can be an advantage creator and also function in that, like I think his ceiling is that I think the people who compared him to like Franz Wagner are probably right. Like a Franz Wagner type player who's like clearly one of the 25 best players in the NBA, but like has some flaws in his game that probably hold him back from reaching like superstar status. But like once again, very good second or third best player on a team.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll see about the Bulls with some of that stuff. I mean, I do think, was Lonzo expiring this year?
We just talked about this.
Oh, they extended
him.
I forgot
2 years, $20 million.
So 10 a year. That's a good. Honestly, I think they can trade him on that, to be totally honest.
This is a fun fact that I said on the stream last night, but I need to repeat so that everyone who listens to the podcast knows. Lonzo Ball has made over $1 million. If you take his contract that he made that he got with the Bulls, he has made over $1 million per game played with the Bulls so far on that contract. And then he got another 2-year, $20 million extension after that contract was over. So he's going to make $100 million from the Bulls, and he has yet to play. I think he's played like 75 games on that.
Beast mode.
Great for him. I'm happy for him, especially because now it looks like his career is going to get a little bit back. Like, I know he got injured again, but it was a separate injury. I'm happy for him. The Bulls doing what they did with Vucevic not trading him, with Kobe White not trading him on that scam contract when they probably could have gotten 7 teams called about him at the deadline, and they didn't even return the calls, was the reporting.
On Kobe White?
On Kobe White. Like, he's
That's
an untouchable player.
Obnoxious, dude. Like, Kobe White could have, like, the Orlando Magic, if Kobe White was on the Orlando Magic, dude, like, it would, I know he had a bad game in the play-in, like, he would do so well on the Magic, man. Like,
well, I immediately had my Oppenheimer moment where I covered my face and when I realized that they started 4 white guys and then a guy with the last name White, the 5 whites.
Yeah, the 5 whites, yeah.
The exciting whites. That was not a good, I immediately knew they were going to lose the game once that happened. But the Kobe White thing is like, he had a year and a half, 2 years left on his deal, which they probably could have got real value for. They could have went a little bit further into the tank and not made this play in and lost this game. They could have got a higher draft in a draft and had a chance to get Cooper Flagg in this draft. They probably could have ended like where Toronto is, which gives you a decent shot at making that leap.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you have the fact that they didn't trade Vucevic. They're going to extend Giddey. And like, this is, if I got the Chicago Bulls job today, I would nuke the shit out of this roster.
Yes.
Absolutely. I would just be like Buzelis and whoever, and I'll let the other contracts expire or trade them in the offseason or next deadline, because there's a lot of money coming off the books between Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter and Trey Jones and Vucevic and all those guys. I would just blow this roster to smithereens.
Nikola Vucevic, get ready to learn LA Laker, buddy. Like, you're
I would just get whatever I could get back for Vucevic at this point.
Yeah.
Getting him off the roster, having him on the roster is so bad, because then he has a Mickey stretch like he had this year, and you win too many games.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's once again, they will never break out of purgatory until they fire Karnisovas. And I don't even know what his contract status is, by the way. He's been there for like 4 years, and that's usually when their contracts expire.
That was so awesome that he was telling the fans to be patient. Like, shut the fuck up. You've been there for 4 years, 5 years. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
also, if you were going in the direction that we're talking about right now, then yeah, sure, be patient, but you're not.
You're not doing it. Like, what's the hope on the horizon you're telling them? Yeah, we're going to really nail the 17th pick that we don't even fucking own. They don't own their pick this year, right?
No, they do. They have their pick. That's the one thing. They got it back. Remember the Levine trade?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They got it from the Spurs for taking on the bad salary.
Man, that's
it was top 10 protected this year, next year, and the following year, which is where they're going to end up anyway. But they have their pick. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was top 10 protected. So this basically made it so that they can be mid, because otherwise they would have given this pick away. But now they could make a play-in run and still keep their pick at like pick 13 or wherever they end up.
I think I said this on the podcast before, but just in case I didn't, like right now, obviously this changes a little bit with the play-in, but right now, everyone who's not in the lottery, there's 16 teams that are not in the lottery, obviously. Only 3 of them have their own pick in this draft.
It's insane.
It's just the Pacers, the Magic, and the Celtics are the only teams that have their own pick in this draft. It's so like of non-lottery teams, which is so fucking insane.
If the draft happened right now, which these are set basically outside of the final playing games.
Yeah.
The Nets would have their own pick, which is going to be top 7 or 8. And then they would also have the 20th pick, the 26th pick, and the 27th pick.
Awesome.
We are really coming to a point where it's just this, everyone trading all of their picks is making it so that it's just going to fuck up the whole market moving forward, as you've talked about time and time again. But
like nobody's gonna be able to, because the other thing is like, again, I don't want to like be too much of an economics like pervert, but like there's no fucking liquidity either because like Sam Presti doesn't spend them. You know what I'm saying? So like everyone's looking at the other like 3 fucking teams that have picks. Everyone's looking at Houston. Everyone's looking at the Nets. Everyone's looking at the Jazz. Everyone's looking at the Pelicans, being like, can you please fucking like put these back in the market so we can make trades? Nobody has like, because essentially draft picks are the currency that like makes trades go. And what I guess what I'm saying is the banks are out of money. We're entering the banks are out of money style like a thing in the NBA where nobody's going to be able to make trades. People are running out of second round draft picks too. There's no currency. They're going to need to like invent the third round of the NBA just so teams have something to fucking trade each other. Like
Bills posted and said, think of draft picks like it's insulin.
It's true. Honestly, it is. I think they honestly are going to invent the third round of the draft in the next 2 years because it'll be like the Fed printing money. Like when the supply, they're floating draft picks as like a fiat currency.
Super inflation is coming.
Kind of, because like I think of we were on the gold standard before. You had a certain amount of currency backed by the gold. And here comes Adam Silver, the Richard Nixon of the thing. We're going to a fiat currency. We're floating the American dollar. We're floating draft picks. Third round, baby. And that'll bail out some of these over-leveraged banks, a.k.a. the Phoenix Suns, the Milwaukee Bucks.
This isn't a recession indicator. This is a depression indicator.
Yeah. I mean, it is. We are kind of, well, no, this is why the Fed, aka Adam Silver, the league, need to invent the third round of the NBA because that's what's going to stave off the depression.
Well, he already admitted to doing CIA like tactics. I don't know if you saw it on Pat McAfee earlier today.
No. What happened?
So I know he is close personal friends with Henry Kissinger.
Yes.
Adam Silver. So that tells you everything that you need to know. Well,
rest in peace.
Yeah. R.I.P. to the king.
Yeah.
But he said Adam Silver says that the ratings picked up for the NBA in the second half of the season. Yep. I think you saw tremendous competition around the league, healthy stars, a trade that attracted a lot of attention. A bunch of things happened in the league, and that generated a lot of interest. You're telling me that the little hand didn't make a Luka to the Lakers?
Yeah.
Let's boost the ratings like we all said was happening?
Adam Silver made the call and said, you know what? Front Nico that 8 ball. Allegedly. It's a joke.
They said, Nico, if you cross us, you're going to end up like Henry Hill.
Yes, exactly. They made Nico the patsy. They made him the fall guy. And attachment. I mean, that is a little suspicious. The Lakers were about to exit the gift shop. Like, man, it's crazy.
I've said it. And I don't want it to happen, and it will never happen. But the funniest possible outcome, this will not happen, but the funniest possible outcome is that the Lakers lose to the Timberwolves in the first round, and the Mavericks get in the 8th seed, and they pull off the biggest upset we've ever seen over the Thunder. It'd be amazing. I highly doubt a team that doesn't have any players that could dribble is going to beat the Thunder, but it would be the funniest possible Nico apology tour we've ever seen in our entire lives.
Hear me out. What are the Thunder really good at? Creating steals and turnovers, right? You can't steal the ball if nobody's dribbling.
They're just getting the ball and shooting and making it every time.
Yeah, immediately.
Clay's just going back in time and no dribbles.
Yeah,
doing game 6 to the Thunder every game.
What if Nico Harrison looked at the Thunder? He really was trying to win. He said, we need a team that does not dribble the basketball.
This is how we win.
This is how we win.
This is how we win. So, all right, let's get into the Eastern Conference playoffs because we're going to talk about the Western Conference on the Patreon episode because that is the one that everyone wants to hear about. So you got to pay us money to do that.
Yeah.
But let's talk Pistons Knicks first
Sure.
because I think that this is a series that I think that there are two series in the East that are kind of up for grabs in terms of if people think that they're actually competitive and that both teams can win. But this is one that we've talked about a lot. I feel like you've been kind of wish casting the Pistons over the Knicks in this one a little bit.
I definitely have.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen anymore, to be totally honest. But
well, let's go down the advantages for each team.
Okay.
Coaching advantage? Who would you say has the coaching advantage here?
I
mean, if we only have recent history of Tibbs with a worse roster beating JB Bickerstaff in a series.
I was going to say, I guess it's like technically Tibbs, but like, I don't know. JB's like Tibbs. JB's coaching hungry though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do think that like, generally speaking, unless there's like a huge mismatch, I don't think I don't know. I don't think Tibbs is like he's like a very important person to the league history and coaching, like, but I don't think he's necessarily a good coach. Does that make sense? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he was a necessary step to get us to this point, but like the league might have kind of passed him by a little bit. And I do think that when coaches are kind of similar, that the coach who's been there less amount of time is usually like younger and hungrier and is more creative and like less.
Yeah, the young and hungry JB Bickerstaff.
I'm serious.
Like 20 years.
He's been around 20 years, but this is a new roster. They're more willing to be creative. You know what I think is in these situations.
Vern said, "This is your brain on contrarianism." What are we talking about, Sam? 2 years ago, the Cavs with their current roster that just won like 65 games, went up against the Knicks in the first round, and their second best player was Julius Randle, and they ran through the Cavs. Yes. They have a clear coaching advantage.
JB Bickerstaff had been employed by the Cavs longer than Tom Thibodeau had been employed by the Knicks at that point.
No, he hadn't. What are you talking about?
Yes.
It was the same amount of time.
It wasn't the same amount of time. JB was on the he was a fire hire, right? Like, wasn't he he didn't get wasn't he on the coaching staff? He was like
it was half a season more
elevated. Yeah.
This is an insane argument, even for you.
No, I stand by it. I think that this is I honestly unironically do think that I think JB Bickerstaff is going to outcoach Tibbs in this series. I don't think it's going to matter because Tibbs has a much better roster. But I do think I don't know.
Why? You have to give a single example why.
I think he's going to be more willing to be creative. I don't think Tibbs is going to make adjustments.
What does he do that's creative? Cade runs the whole offense.
I think he's going to try out different guys. He's got Ron Holland. He's got Asar Thompson. He's got a lot of different like weird guys on the road. Like Simone Fontecchio is still on the bench.
Right,
like there's different looks that he could get. I'm serious. I really think like you know what Tibbs is going to do. He's going to play 8 fucking guys. It's going to be the same 8 guys. Night in, night out.
In the first round, that probably works, though.
Exactly. Well, and that's why I'm probably not gonna pick against them. But I do think that he's gonna do a better job. He's gonna be more flexible, and he's going to like. I think that the Pistons are gonna catch up a little bit more to the Knicks than people might otherwise. I don't think they have enough shooting. There's too much Malik Beasley for the Pistons to like actually win this series. But I do think that this is going to be closer than it should be. Because I do think that JB Bickerstaff is going to have to adapt. He's going to have to try weird matchups. And Tibbs isn't going to be able to make adjustments because they have fucking just 8 players.
Okay. So here's my advantage. Here's why I think they have a massive coaching advantage.
Yes.
The thing that Tibbs does best in playoff series, and sometimes it is actually a weakness of his, if he can go a little bit too far with it. For example, last year in the Sixers series, his entire plan in that series was we are not going to let Joel Embiid beat us. And then Tyrese Maxey averaged over 30 points a game in that series on insane efficiency and basically dragged them to competency because they were so zoned in on those dribble handoffs, making sure that Joel got doubled on almost every single possession. And it opened up shit for other people on the team. Mm-hmm. The Pistons do not have anyone but Cade that if they come up with some sort of plan to trap him and blitz him, that really scares me outside of a potential Malik Beasley hot shooting game, which might happen once or twice throughout the series, like it has a lot throughout the regular season. But I ultimately think that the Knicks, one thing that they don't have that they've had in the past was that rebounding advantage. And that's part of the reason why I think that, like, I remember the famous thing we talked about with them in the playoffs last year is if you looked at their first shot offense, it was bad. It was like, basically they just ate on the boards and they were able to create and generate extra possessions, and that made their offense passable, and their defense actually was not very good last year in the playoffs, and they still ended up getting almost all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals until everyone's body fell apart.
Yep.
I think that they'll be able to come up with a plan to, like, I think Cade ultimately will not be the guy that they let beat them. And the only way the Pistons have a chance of winning this series is if Cade just goes absolutely off in a way that I don't think that will even be possible. Now, the good thing for them is that Cade is a much better passer and playmaker than Joel Embiid, and is a much better passer and playmaker than most stars that they're going up against. He also is very turnover prone.
Yeah.
And he's someone that I think will have one or two games in this series where they get into his handle, they turn him over, they get out running, they get easy buckets in transition. And that ultimately, I think the Knicks combination of zoning in on Cade and making sure that he can't be the one to beat them, combined with the fact that they just have an overwhelming amount of offensive talent for a Pistons defense that's good, but has holes that you can poke at. Like, we've talked about Jalen Duren's struggles as a defender at times. It's a different level in the playoffs. How much will Isaiah Stewart actually play before he gets thrown out of multiple games here, before he punches Jalen Brunson in the neck?
No, we also Cat. He's destined to like smash Cat in the face with an elbow at some point. Like,
we also have a matchup that we saw last year with OG Anunoby and Tobias Harris in the playoffs, and OG ate in that series on Tobias. We also have a matchup where Malik Beasley, who's an improved defender for sure, I don't know if he's a playoff level defender, to be honest with you. The good thing is, on the reverse of that, they also have guys that they can attack. Brunson is attackable. Cat is attackable. But I just think that the offensive firepower from the Knicks, combined with the fact that they will make sure that no one can beat them on that team, they're not going to let Cade beat them, is the reason why they ultimately win this series. And I'm going to pick them to win in 6. I think that the Pistons will have a game where they just legitimately just destroy them on the glass in a way that I think is, for the Knicks, I think that they'll be able to basically do what the Knicks have done to teams in the past in the playoffs, where they generate those extra possessions on the glass. I think that we might even get a situation where, like, the Knicks are up 3-1 in the series, and it looks like they're going to close it out, but the Pistons steal a game. But I don't think that this series is going to be as competitive as everyone else does. I think that this is going to be like, it's a Knicks win in 6, but there's like 2 blowouts from the Knicks, and it's fairly obvious that they are the better team.
Yeah, I mean, there's just too much Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., stuff like that.
Tobias Harris. Like, they just don't have 16-game players.
Yeah.
They have very good regular season players, or good regular season players that have never proven it in the playoffs. A very young Pistons team.
I also think Cade is either going to have, you might have been alluding to this, but I'm going to say it a little more explicitly. I think Cade is either going to have like an awesome game or be a disaster. And I think overall his numbers are going to be disastrous. I think Cade's a great player. I think he's going to eventually be like a really good playoff player. It usually doesn't go very well for the number one creator who's turnover prone his first time in the playoffs. Against, like, this is a team that has a lot of size to throw at him too. And his primary advantage usually as a guard is that he's bigger than the other guards. And maybe they can hunt Brunson a little bit and give Cade a little bit of time to work. But if not, he's up against Mikal Bridges. He's up against Josh Hart. He's up against OG Anunoby. Like, that's tough. I'm sorry. That's a really tough matchup for a guy who turns the ball over a lot. Like, a lot.
What's the pathway to an upset for the Pistons here?
Rebound. You said rebounding. That's a huge part. I do think if they can rebound, if they can get out in transition, they're going to be a lot more athletic and a lot more they're going to have a lot more bounce than the Knicks. The Knicks are going to be tired, especially if this series starts going long. If you can turn this into a foot race a little bit.
In defense of Tibbs, he did finally wind down his players' minutes the last month and a half, 2 months of the season. He got them down to in the 30s so that they're a little bit fresher for the playoffs, and I think that will make a difference. But I do think that, honestly, I think their pathway to this is that someone gets injured and turns an ankle in game 1 or game 2, and the Knicks are just very thin. The Knicks, once again, you are right that they only have 7 playable players. Their margin for error is extremely thin. I think you very quickly are getting to we have to rely on Landry Shamet playoff minutes, or we have to rely on Tyler Kolak playoff minutes, or we have to rely on Huck Porty playoff minutes if one of the centers gets hurt. Because I think my guess is that they stick with the main 5, which are Brunson, Hart, Bridges, OG, and Cat, and then their bench is Mitchell Robinson, Deuce McBride. That's their 7-man rotation, and then the A spot, which I think Tibbs will probably try an 8-man rotation in the first round, will probably start with one of Precious Achua or DeLon Wright or one of those guys, just dependent on what they really need in this series. And I think that he'll probably change that guy from time to time. He did that last year in the playoffs where he rotated that guy based on matchup and based on who they kind of needed. And it is very funny because we're going to have a guest on a little bit next week when we're halfway through this series. Mm-hmm. To talk about this series. But one of the things I've talked about is the fact that the last year's Knicks team was the grit and grind Knicks, and they were beloved because they had an Italian guy and the college buddies, and it was a feel good story. And it was a lot of guys they drafted that were kind of, Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride. And it was this lunch pail hardworking team. And the football brain fans in New York love that shit. They were yo. And then this year, it's been a little bit of they won more games this year, and they were a higher seed this year, I think, or the same seed. They were the same seed.
Yeah.
But the vibes have been a little bit off to the point where one injury combined with maybe the physical overwhelming that the Pistons will have on them in terms of like you said, with Thompson and Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench, that's their only pathway, I think, to winning this series personally. And I think that is, they basically have to pull a reverse Uno on the Knicks and be we're going to beat you the way that you just beat teams for 2 or 3 years in the playoffs.
Yeah, no. And I think that, I think that you do it because the other thing I want to say about the Pistons is the Pistons have
Oh, Huck Porty's out with a torn meniscus. My bad. I can't keep up with all these injuries. But
I do think the Pistons, they have bad shooting, but they don't have non-shooting. Mm-hmm. They have unreliable shooting, and I do think
they have some spacing now. Yeah, I think that they can space the floor a little bit.
I guess what I would say is they have unreliable shooting, but they have enough guys who are kind of shooters.
Volume.
It's not crazy that a different guy gets hot every night. It's not insane that Tim Hardaway Jr. has a 5 for 7 from 3 game.
He's a very Karis LeVert wheel player, but he's a Karis LeVert wheel player, but also the nights where he is bad is a disaster.
It's a disaster, yeah.
Because he just doesn't do anything else. And he also is someone who can. The thing that scares me the most about the Knicks, and I actually think Tobias got a little bit better at the end of his tenure with the Sixers where he didn't hijack the offense quite as much, and he was just able to make the simple little quick passes that we've needed him to make forever. But they just have too many guys that want to hijack the offense regularly. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is an example. I mean, Malik Beasley's found a nice role for himself, and they've kind of needed him to do that at times. But Tobias is another guy like that. And we'll see if he even plays in this series. I would imagine he's not in the rotation to start. But if Paul Reed ever makes his way into the rotation, he does that all the time.
They have Dennis Schroeder now, right?
Dennis Schroeder runs their bench units, and he's actually been pretty good for them.
Yeah. That's
that's another hot shooting guy.
Yeah. And that's another kind of wild card. They have wild card guys.
They're the Charlie Kelly team. They're wild card.
That they have enough wild card guys that it's not insane. It's just not something I would bet on. You know what I'm saying? And again, they're going to be fresher. If this series goes 6 or 7, I don't know. You start getting like, I mean, you have more rest than you do in like later rounds, but
Sure.
like, I don't know. Like, it gives you more of the advantage to like do runouts, and like when guys get tired, they start front rimming shots. You start getting into more misses from the Knicks. If you get tired, your legs go dead. You start front rimming shots. That's more opportunities for the Pistons to get out and rebound and go down the floor. Like I think I think we're going to see a lot of the Knicks building leads and the Pistons crawling back into games as they go along in this series. Like I think that is, I think when it's fresh and they're going bar for bar in the first half, usually the Knicks are going to be up 20, but I do think there's going to be quite a few. I think there's going to be at least one of these first two home games. There's going to be a day where the Knicks are up 21 or something in the third quarter, and the Pistons come crawling back into it, and everybody at MSG gets quiet and silent, and it starts getting the feel. You start getting the fear vibe in some of that. So you took my. I was also going to say Knicks in 6. I'm going to say Knicks in 7. I'm going to give my Pistons a little bit more respect than that because I've kind of talked myself into it over the course of this. I would not be shocked if this was like a Knicks sweep. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but like
random role player meme game, the blank game.
Yeah.
What role player from this series is most likely to have the blank game? Like random role player just takes over a game.
Is Malik Beasley graduated from the random role player?
I think he's too good now.
Yeah.
He's a starter.
Yeah.
He's like it's got to be like a bench player or like a fringe starter, in my opinion, in order to be like.
Do we talk about?
I know who I'm picking.
I'm going to say, you know what? Let's go. I want to hear about the Ron Holland game.
Okay. Like four blocks, 2 steals, like it's just a menace everywhere. I mean, look, he had some moments down the stretch of this season.
I think transition is going to be really important. And I think he and Asar are he's just a little more solid than Asar right now at this point, like in terms of like how often he plays and stuff like that. Like I think Dutch, like, I think this is the type of series where he can kind of feast and get out and transition. And I think, again, when the Knicks start getting tired at the end of games, I think he's going to be scary in some of these things. So I'll go with Ron Holland.
I will be picking Cameron Payne, who
good pick,
who is a playoff riser, who will only play in like 2 games this series, but it will be like the Knicks go through a stretch where they can't score for 4 minutes. And the Pistons are just turning them over and they're exhausted. And he throws Campaign out there, and Campaign does what he did for the Sixers last year, what he did for the Suns a few years ago. And he comes in off the bench and makes like 4 threes, and Madison Square Garden goes fucking insane.
Yeah.
And Campaign is like when you think of like the meme role player game, he is like the prototypical meme role player game. It's normally these bucket getter guard microwave guys. Like we just had it with the Cole Anthony game and the play-in, and the fact someone said that the play-in is so summer league coded was just so perfect for me. But the like I think about like the Shake Milton game for the Sixers in the Hawks series.
Tyler Hero is like the god mode of this.
The Steph Curry of the play-in.
Yeah.
The Alec Burks game against the Hawks a few years ago for the Knicks. Like, it's that kind of player, and I think that Campaign is going to be the one who.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So
to be clear, we also think Deuce McBride is too good for this, right?
I think that he could be still because he's a fringe starter to me. But I honestly think that Knicks fans have been arguing. We'll see, because I don't think Tibbs would ever do this. Tibbs is so old school that he would never start 2 small guards. But Knicks fans have been like screaming for them to start McBride and Brunson, and then just bring Hart as like a wild card off the bench that can play with multiple different lineups. He won't do that, to be clear, because the one weakness that because the thing is, remember when we talked about how the Knicks were trying to build like their own version of the Celtics where they just have shooting everywhere and like creators everywhere. Hart's the only guy that is not that.
Yeah.
And he's the one guy that a lot of teams just hide their center or they hide their weakest defender on Hart, and they either have their center roaming or they just put like a bad defender on him and it doesn't matter quite as much because he's not someone who's going to be a threat to make threes unless he sees a Sixers jersey and it's that series. So that is the one element I think that could fuck up the Knicks offense. But we'll see if that does happen. If because Tibbs has never been someone. Josh Hart's one of his guys. Yeah. He will play his guys until he would rather lose with his guys. Him and Doc are very much cut from the same mold. He would rather go down with the ship.
Yeah.
I think Tibbs is literally just like the grit and grind version of Doc, basically.
Yes. Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, like the grunge version of Doc.
Yeah. He's the train model set in the basement version to Doc's politician. Like, you know what I'm saying? Doc's wherever Doc is a politician, Tibbs is in the basement. He has his model figurines that he's painting and he's devising like set lineups with that. So
I don't get that at all, but all right. Anyway,
it's Warhammer. You 30K. Okay, I'll get you some figurines for that.
I didn't understand the reference at all. Okay. I thought you were going to say that Tibbs is like Soundgarden or something.
Yeah, no.
Tibbs is like some Tibbs is Mudvayne.
Yeah. There we go. Fair enough.
And Doc is Metallica. Anyway,
that's true.
Yeah, no. So all right, Pacers Bucks.
Dame probably available for game 2.
Wild turnaround, but also I just want to put it out there. A lot of people are like, "Why is he rushing back?" I'm like, they said this from the beginning. They said based off the diagnosis that it feels like he's dodged the bigger issues when it comes to like when Wemby had to sit out for the season, when Asar was out for all that time. Like the kind of blood clot that he had wasn't quite as serious as some of the ones we've seen recently. Brandon Ingram a few years ago, and they put him on medication immediately, and apparently the blood clot is gone. So. Yeah. It does feel like he probably will be back at some point in the series, probably in game 2 or 3. And we also did see this last year with the Bucks, where the Bucks were like, Giannis will be back, don't worry about it, and then he never played in that series. So I'm not saying that these are two comparable situations because Giannis had the Achilles and this is like a much more serious like medical thing, and I don't want to compare the two. Yeah. But I do think that it's possible that we see Dame, but it's a little bit later than we think, and they're just being cautiously optimistic about him being able to return sooner. But he definitely will miss game 1.
Makes it a little more of a series, I think.
Losing Dame or having Dame?
It makes it a little bit more of a series.
I'm not specifying which way.
I'm just saying it makes it a little bit more of a series.
There was a Bucks fan in the Discord earlier who said we're better without Dame. So
let's go.
And I was like, Sam moment.
They love Kevin Porter Jr. folks.
Oh God. Gross. So coaching advantage in this series, Rick Carlisle or Doc Rivers?
Here's the thing. We are getting undermanned Doc. I want to point that out. Undermanned Doc. That's the only time he's a good coach. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when the odds are against him, he actually is a pretty good coach usually. That said, I do think like
they beat them last year without Giannis and Dame in a game when Chris Middleton went insane.
I still don't understand how
undermanned Doc.
Yeah. I still don't understand how Rick Carlisle has that team like a top 10 defense. Like,
is it like a 3-point shooting thing? Like, because like
there's gotta be something Mickey Mouse in there.
Yeah,
like it seems crazy to me.
It seems crazy to me because every time I watch, I go, well, they have a good defensive front court, but like Pascal Siakam is not a really good defender anymore. Like I've watched multiple Pacers games where teams attack him on defense, and I'm like, Siakam used to be a very good defender. Like, what has happened? Yeah. He was never like an all defense level guy, but he was always a very good playoff level defender.
Yeah.
And now he's like, maybe it's because part of the fact that he just took on more on the offensive load.
Yeah.
And it is just weird on him. But like the reason why I like the Pacers a little bit more as a playoff team than as a regular season team is because we just talked about like these random guys that go off.
Yeah.
This is a team of random guys that can go off, but also have ancillary skills that can keep them on the floor. they can control, no pun intended, they can control the pace of the game.
Yes.
And that is why I like the Pacers in this series.
As Bill points out, they're not fraudulent against good teams, which is usually a pretty good playoff indicator. Like
they might be fraudulent against bad teams, but not good teams.
Yeah. Seriously,
they're the inverse of the Bucks, basically.
Yes, exactly.
The Bucks destroy bad teams, and then they lose to like pretty good to great teams.
Yeah.
And then the Pacers are just they're the wild card team. They once again on any given night they could be in a struggle with the Wizards, and then they could beat the Thunder. Like they're just because they play a style that is only theirs.
Yeah.
They're one of the few teams in the NBA that really plays their own unique individual style. And I think the reason why is because they have a really unique star in Halliburton.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. And, credit to, honestly, you do have to give a little bit of credit to like Rick Carlisle, because he was always like one of the premier cranks, like in terms of a coach. Like I always thought of him as like the ultimate inflexible, old school, you have to play this way guy. And he's, he was a defense coach. Like that was always like the book, like in Dallas, that was always like his thing. And like, he's like, you know what? Fine. Fuck it. Pace. I don't give a shit. Like, this is what we can do. Like, this is what we're going to be able to do and be responsible for. And
they a ton of shots.
They've got some dogs. I can't say enough how pleasantly surprised I am. Like Aaron Nesmith's like one of the like better starter wings.
He's good
in the NBA. Like it's really impressive. Like shout out to Aaron Nesmith. I'm
not even
mad.
The only trade that Brad Stevens has ever lost.
Yeah. The Celtics lost that one. Like straight up. Danny Ainge, I owe you an apology. I was so mad at him for taking Aaron Nesmith and who else did
Peyton Pritchard.
Peyton Pritchard, yeah.
And both turned out to be really good players.
And they were both good. Like it is funny that Romeo Langford is essentially now the only miss from that era. Like
he shot 50, 40, 90 this season.
Yeah, I saw that. I like retweeted that. Everyone, all of Celtics Twitter was tweeting that with us because we won the title. We don't care. Like so, but
you also turned Malcolm Brogdon into Drew Holiday.
Yeah, so it's not like
they lost the trade and then immediately blew out the next trade. So what does it matter?
Yeah. But Aaron Nesmith's a good player. You know how I feel about Nembhard. Like especially like in the playoffs. I think like their biggest fake guy that plays minutes for them is like Obi Toppin, who I'm expecting to.
But he's a random variance guy. Remember in the Knicks series last year where he had like 2 games where it was like, what the fuck? Like him and TJ McConnell just once the bench would come in and they would just take over the game.
Yeah. It's going to be like interesting to see, but like I don't know. I mean, do we want to? I still think I couldn't get there. I was really hoping that these matchups were flipped. I was really hoping we would get Pacers,
Pistons.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly.
Pacers, Knicks. Yeah,
Pacers, Knicks. But we didn't, so it's not going to be as fun.
I will say this much: the Pistons had a lot to play for, and the Bucks beat them in a must-win game the other day, in a way that the Bucks feel like they always lose that game nowadays. And that was basically a play-in game. Like, I mean, to play into their seeds and their matchup, but that was because if they lost that game, the Pistons win the next game, they could have ended up in that scenario where they flipped their seeds.
Yeah.
And I look at this Bucks team and I go, they've played a little bit invigorated ever since Dame went down. And Giannis is still Giannis. You do have to respect the fact that they have the best player in this series.
Yeah.
But also, I just feel like playoff basketball has been slowly moving away from who is your best player to who is the worst player you have on the court. Mm-hmm. And the Bucks are going to regularly have 1 to 2 of the worst players on the court in this series. And I think that there are they just play too many low field players. They play too many like me guys.
Yeah.
And I think the Pacers will be able to space them out. I think Giannis, my prediction for this series is that Giannis averages 35 to 40 points a game, and it does not matter.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not, I don't think these are going to be blowouts, to be clear. I think that they will be close-ish games. Mm-hmm. And if you're in close-ish games, that's the pathway for the Bucks to win this series.
Yeah.
If you're in closer games and you have the best player, I understand why people will be picking the Bucks. I don't think it's outlandish to pick the team with the best player.
Yeah.
I also think that playoff basketball and just basketball in general has been more recently has been about your third to fifth guy. And they will be playing a lot of guys like Kyle Kuzma, and they will be playing guys like, I know Kevin Porter Jr. has been good for them. I don't trust that to translate to the playoffs. They will be playing guys who, once again, they're also variance guys, the AJ Greens, the maybe Andre Jackson Jr. I know he hasn't been playing for them quite as much down the stretch of this season. He also might be out with an injury. Who knows? Everyone's fucking injured all the time in the NBA. But I just don't think that the depth of players that they have on this roster, they don't have enough good playoff players, in my opinion. I don't even think Brook Lopez is the same level. Now, if they get Dame back, let's say they lose game one, they get Dame back and they win game two, this will absolutely be a competitive series. I think it's going to be like, I think that the Knicks are very clearly better than the Pistons. So I'm going to pick the Pacers in 6 here. But I also think that this will be a much more competitive series than like, I don't think that I think there might be one blowout in this series.
I agree with literally everything you just said. But I am going to go Pacers in 5. Where I
said like a week ago, I probably would have taken the Pacers in 5.
Yeah. I think we totally like flipped our opinions. Cause like I would have in any of the other matchups of these middle seeds, like if the Bucks had gotten the Knicks or if the Bucks had gotten the Pistons, I would have talked myself into the Bucks. Like everything you just said, the Bucks absolutely could win this series. I just think, as exactly as you said, I think that they violate the no shitters rule like too badly. Yeah. Like there's too many bad players on this. Like the fact that Kevin Porter Jr. is as involved as he is quite alarming. Like I don't think that is. I don't think any of this is going to hold up, and the Pacers simply have too many good guys. And I don't think it was an aberration or completely Mickey Mouse that the Pacers made the Eastern Conference Final. Like that means something to me that you made the Eastern Conference Finals. They're going to look at this Bucks team. They're going to play with swagger. They're going to do all of these things. I just think the vibes, I understand that like the Bucks had their own little like Mickey Mouse March, like April run. Understand all of that. I really respect Giannis, just like you said, 40 to 30 points a game. I think some of these games are going to be like pretty close. I just trust the Pacers to like execute down the stretch. And I just think they're just going to be better. And I think that it's going to be a competitive series, but a short series.
Okay. So the pathway for the Bucks to pull off, I don't even know if it's an upset. I don't know who the favorite is in this series. It is the 4-5, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really think
the Pacers. I think the Pacers are the 4.
Yep. So the pathway for the Bucks to pull off an upset in this series is they either steal game 1 and they get Dame back in game 2, or they just have this. The one thing that the Bucks do have is they have guys who, when they catch fire, they are unbelievable. Like they do have Bobby Portis, they have Taurean Prince, they have guys who AJ Green, they have volume shooters who can catch fire on any given night. And there might be a night where they do the Miami Heat thing, where they just shoot 60% from 3, and you have Giannis plus Brook can space you out, and the Pacers are just like lose the shooting variance in this series. And that is like not to literally Bucks post, but like that is a potential outcome in this series for them to win because they have so many guys. Venus Boothole just commented and said over under for Kyle Kuzma's per game plus minus. I'm setting it at -15. I'll be honest. My prediction is that Kyle Kuzma gets benched in this series and he only plays like 15 minutes a game.
Do you think Doc has?
I don't think he's one of his guys. Is the thing is I don't think that Kuzma has like I think that he will trust Bobby Portis more than he'll trust Kyle Kuzma because he's coached Bobby for a year and a half now. And I think that I know we just talked about. All right, so let's see. He's averaging over his last 10 games. He's averaging last 6 games. He's 26 minutes, 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 28, 23, and 12. But that last game was completely. They played him in a meaningless game, Sam. In the last game of the season, which is normally like
that means that you're like going to be out of the rotation. Like
they cut his minutes. He was at 38, 35, 37, and then he only got it to 31 time in the last 6 games of the season. I think that Kuzma probably gets benched at some point in this series.
Yeah,
and that's honestly good for them.
Yeah, I mean that is good for them. He's literally been the worst player in the NBA. Like,
the one thing we do have to point out, though, even though I think Kyle Kuzma absolutely stinks and does not play bigger than his size, they have a massive size advantage in this series. Brook Lopez is a legit 7-footer who's like a wide 7-footer. Giannis at the 4. They can run lineups with Portis as a big. They can run lineups with Kuzma at the 3. Like, they do have a massive size advantage in this. True. And if they can figure out a way to control the pace of the game, that will pay huge dividends for them. I don't think it's going to happen, and that's why I'm taking the Pacers.
Because Siakam's obviously going to be guarding Giannis. They have to have played each other a bunch of times. What does that look like?
He runs it up. Like, Giannis will go off in this series. Like, the last 2, remember he had that 60-something point game against them like a little over a year ago, and he stole the ball, and they fought over that.
Yeah.
He's done that. Like, I think he's had 3 50-point games against the Pacers.
Yeah.
That's the one reason why I think the Bucks do have a chance in this series. But I ultimately come down on, I just think that the Pacers are just a better built team.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I have a healthy respect for the Pacers this year. For narrative reasons, I have to continue to disrespect Halliburton, but I do think the Pacers are the 3rd best team in the East.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. Let's go through these last 2 series fairly quickly, I would say. Okay. Oh, wait, we didn't say we have to have the random role player game. Random role player goes off like on one of these teams. The blank game.
I think he stinks, but it does feel like Benedict Mathurin has like a weird game.
Yeah,
a weird good game in this one.
Like, Benedict Mathurin is another streaky guy too.
Yeah. Like, I don't like Benedict Mathurin, like, as a player. I don't think he's going to be, like, very good. Like, I don't think he's, like, a real impact player, but I could see him, like, having just, like, a random, like, 26-point game in this series, like, at some point.
The Bobby Portis game.
Oh, yeah, that's a free.
Historically speaking, Bobby Portis is a playoff guy. I'm going with the guys who have already done it.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say
Bobby Portis.
Yep.
We will get the Bobby Portis game at some point in this where he's like 8 for 8 and we're like, how does he always do this? All right. So, last 2 series here. Magic Celtics, that's set in stone now. How many games are you taking the Celtics in?
4.
I'm taking them in 5. I think they're gonna go up 3-0, and then they're gonna steal, and then the Magic will steal game 4 at home, and then the Celtics will win game 5 at home.
They just can't score, man.
We saw it in the Hawks game in the play-in, where it was just like there was a 5-minute stretch where they didn't score any points, and the Hawks got back into the game, and you just can't do that against the Celtics.
And the thing that the Celtics defense is weak against is like shifty guard play, and they have like none of that. It's like, it's Corey Joseph, like
Cole
maybe unironically, I do think Cole Anthony is going to be like,
he's the best guard in this series for them.
Yes.
Just because of what he's not going to do what he did in the play-in, obviously, but he's the only one that can have that random game that will keep them in it. And he's going to need to play like 20 to 25 minutes a game for them to keep them in games because they just really lack that. Now, there might be a game. I think the game that they win, it's just going to be all hustle grit, winning on the boards, turning over the Celtics, getting out running, all the narrative grit and grind, boomer hustle bullshit. But I think they'll have one game like that in this series. And I think that my prediction for what's the role player in this series? If I keep up with the theme, Peyton Pritchard's already done it before, where it's like Peyton Pritchard comes in off the bench and hits like 5 threes. Actually, I'll go Sam Hauser.
Okay.
I'll go Sam Hauser. Because I called Wendell Carter for the play-in, and if Cole Anthony didn't go off in that game, it would have been him.
Wendell Carter, yeah.
He had a great game too, but
I do think Anthony Black has a chance to kind of make an impact on this series. I did the one thing the Magic, like, if you are picking like some Magic, the turnovers, the Magic do have a lot of size and could get out and get some steals. And I do think like Anthony Black would be really like helpful for that. Obviously they don't have like Jalen Suggs anymore, but like they do have a lot of like size and stuff that could like bother, especially like some of the Celtics guards and stuff of that. Peyton Pritchard, they have a lot of size. I think Peyton Pritchard's going to have a worse series than people expect because he actually does kind of struggle with size and they have that like up and down.
They had Trae Young in hell the other night.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's honestly, I don't mean this to sound this way, but like Peyton Pritchard is pretty similar to Trae Young, like as a player. Like obviously they're not like the same caliber of player, but like they're very, Peyton Pritchard's probably a better shooter to be honest. Like
definitely a better shooter now.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think, unfortunately, I do think if Suggs were available, I do think this series would be a lot more interesting. And I think I would have a little bit more of a healthy respect for the I just don't think I just can't find a way where they're going to be able to score is the issue. Like I really have a hard time. Maybe I'm totally wrong about this. Maybe they push them to everything, but I kind of think the Magic are kind of drawing dead against the Celtics here. So
yep, I agree. All right. So of the Hawks and the Heat, who would put the biggest scare into the Cavs?
The Heat. 100%
definitely
100% the Heat. Yeah.
Coaching advantage.
I was alarmed at how bad the Hawks looked the other night. Like I understand like the Magic aren't a great matchup.
They play a bunch of, once again, I think when we talk about the importance of your fourth and fifth guy, it's just going to constantly be on display for the Hawks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their second or third best player is Ricochet, and he's like a rookie. Like
I thought he was good. I thought he was genuinely.
Yeah, he was fine.
Good. Yeah, I thought he was like pretty good in that game. To be honest,
for a rookie, I thought he was solid, but like, I don't really think that they like. I thought that a lot of people pointed out the fact that like defensively he got bullied a little bit by the Magic size.
Yeah,
a lot of people have also pointed out that like the Hawks are probably about to check out mentally.
Yeah,
and I think that the Heat are a team that I underestimated again in the play-in. They've lost one play-in game under Spo, and it was literally to this Hawks team 2 years ago. And then they won the second play-in game, went to the finals. Oh, they lost to the Sixers last year too. I forgot about that. But they've always won.
They're never eliminated in the play-in.
They've won this game every year that they've been in. Yeah. So I would imagine it's the Heat. And I think my prediction for that series, I'm still taking Cavs in 5. But I think the Heat win game 1 in Cleveland and everyone loses their mind.
Okay.
My prediction is that Tyler Hero goes insane, fresh off the play-in. 2 days removed. They're a little bit more in rhythm.
Yeah.
They have a crazy shooting game from everyone involved. And everyone's like, oh my God, the Cavs are fraudulent. And then the Cavs just go, no, we're fine. And we win this series.
Who does Wiggins get? Do you put him on Mitchell because he's bigger, or do you try to like just completely eliminate Garland by like putting the big defender on Garland?
I would put him on Mitchell, I think.
You put Garland, have Mitchell guard Garland.
I put Mitchell guard Garland. They're on the same team.
Oh, I thought you meant Davion Mitchell.
Oh, well, Davion Mitchell comes off their bench. So I don't know. Yeah. He might start him in this series just for defensive purposes, to be honest. But I forgot there's 2 D Mitchells in that series.
Mitchells. Yeah.
I would probably put Wiggins on, just put him on the best player. I know Mitchell's stats haven't been great this year, but just put him on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe they do start Davion Mitchell and then they just go Davion Mitchell, Hero, Wiggins, Bam, and Ware, and just try to like put a ton of size out there and like a lot of defensive guys around Hero.
That they actually match up kind of interesting too.
It's not
Ware. Yeah,
I don't think they're going to be able to score enough over the course of the series,
for sure.
But I think I think that this will be a competitive 5-game series.
I like Bam and Ware is probably, this is going to be like a little bit of a trial by fire for Ware, like where he's got to like he's probably going to be up against Mobley, right? Like
Bam and Mobley are very similar players, and Ware is just like a younger diet version of Jared Allen right now.
Yeah,
which is interesting. I mean, Jared Allen's obviously older and better, but like it's, once again, you're not wrong. I do think they match up fairly interestingly with them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's like a real. I have a lot of respect for this Cavs team, and I think when the chips are down, it's simply just gonna be Donovan Mitchell. We have Donovan Mitchell, you don't. Like, And all due respect to Tyler Hero, the playoff riser, I do think Donovan Mitchell is a little better than him, like when it counts. And they do, and they have some size, like they might put Hunter on, like Tyler Hero and like try to like bother him with size too, and see if that does anything. I think that would be really interesting. I agree with you. I think Cavs in 5 feels right to me.
I could see
think
the Heat
it's
pushing
pretty-
it to 6 though.
Do we want to even bother talking about the Atlanta side of things if Atlanta's the one that gets through?
That's
or
a sweep.
Yeah, I mean that's a
Atlanta's would get destroyed.
there's nothing interesting going on there if they.
There's really nothing.
I would be shocked if the Atlanta won.
Yeah,
the next game,
especially with the way that Trey just struggled with all the size. They have size too.
Yeah.
Like and Trey has always kind of struggled against the Heat. Remember, they won that because they beat them in the playoffs a few years ago, and they ran them out of the building 4-1 in that series.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, Jimmy missed 2 games in that series too.
Yeah.
The next year they lost the play-in, but it was all just based on offensive rebounding. And I don't think they're going to lose a game similar to that in the way that they did with the way that this team is built up. That team had like John Collins and Capella as the front court. And this team has, I just think that they're not going to allow that to happen again. And then I think that I think the Heat probably run them out the building like they did to the Bulls last night, to be honest with you. But, so who do you think the random role player is if it's Cavs Heat?
Has Max Strus upgraded?
No, he comes off their. Does he start for them or does he come off their bench?
No, not since they traded for Hunter. I don't think.
I was going to say, I think Hunter starts.
Yeah.
I think. I'm not sure, though.
I'm pretty sure Hunter starts.
I think he's still a fringe starter, so I think he could count.
I mean, revenge
Strus
game.
starts, but it
sorry.
is revenge.
Revenge game.
Okay, all right. I say Strus start or counts because I think he's their 6th best player.
Yeah.
So I would say he counts. Let me dig into my mind palace here. There's going to be a Pell Larson game.
Okay, I love that.
Everyone's going to be like, who the fuck is this guy? And then Demon Spo is going to be like, Pell Larson, I trust you. We're down 3-1 in this series. And Pell Larson's going to hit like 7 threes. And everyone's going to be losing their mind. Like, who's this new Devil Magic white guy the Heat got? If he's injured right now, I'm going to be furious that I didn't know this. Because I don't think he played in the play-in game.
My other pick I want to do an honorable mention. I also think Nikola Jovic is going to have a good playoffs.
Yeah, where's he been? I feel like I haven't heard of him in fucking forever. Yeah, okay. So he played 2 weeks ago against the Sixers, was the last game he played Pell Larson. But he played 55 games for them, played 14 minutes a game. I'm assuming that he is not hurt. So I'm going to say him, and then let's see, Nikola Jovic. Like, I feel like Nikola Jovic was
I didn't see him in the game last night.
No, he did not. I don't think he played. No, he didn't play. He's been out, so he might be injured, actually.
He might be injured.
Or he might have just fell out of the rotation because Spo doesn't trust him. But, yeah, weird. Stats aren't bad.
That's what I'm saying. I think Jovic is good. I would be surprised if Spo benched him. Like, I'm less surprised that he benched Jaime Hawkins.
For off-the-court reasons.
Yes.
That we can't mention.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Let's just say they played the Bulls last night.
That's points. That's points.
Had to leave that nugget in here for the end of it. So yeah, this is our second episode we did this week. So we'll do the Patreon episode. We're doing it Saturday morning, right?
Yeah, Saturday morning.
One Saturday morning.
Do we have we not done our ballots yet? When do we want to do that?
Do you care? I don't think anyone cares. I'll be honest. Every time I suggest it, people are like, "We don't care."
Okay.
I mean, we could do it. If you want to bring it for next episode, we can do it.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. Our predictions are more important, probably.
Isn't it pretty chalk this year too? Like, SGA is definitely going to win MVP. Defensive Player of the Year, I guess, is the one that's up in the air.
Yeah,
like Draymond or Mobley.
Well, Beasley or Pritchard, sixth man of the year.
Okay, so I guess it's not chalk. To be honest,
yeah. I don't know. Do
you want to do it right now?
No, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it, like that we didn't do it, but I guess it's more important because because we did pretty good. Again, we did really good on our predictions. Like,
Yeah.
I like at the beginning of the year. Did we both said SGA for MVP?
We both
right?
said SGA was the best value because he wasn't even the favorite, if I remember correctly. I think he was second or third.
Yeah, I think Jokic.
I think Jokic was favored again, and we were like, "There's no way Jokic wins MVP again." And the media is trying their hardest to act like he is a literal superhuman and not a real person, and he's like a Marvel character.
He's a bat boy. Yeah.
He's I can hear sonic waves from even though we're in Denver, I can hear it from the Pacific Ocean. Shut the fuck up!
Absurd.
Stop it!
I think we would have nailed our Wemby Defensive Player of the Year if
that was so obvious. We were at the time we were like, how are these odds not like even? And the reason why is because he got hurt. He also had a health issue, to be clear. Yeah. It's not even like one of those things where it's like you could say Wemby's injury prone. He literally had a blood clot. Like, what are the odds of that shit?
Yeah.
So yeah, the awards, I don't know. Every time I ask about all NBA and awards, people are like, we don't care about that. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to wait. If people don't want to hear it, then I'm not going to waste anyone's time.
We'll listen to the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be back on Saturday morning. We'll record those, and then I'll be streaming all weekend. I'm not doing the last play-in games because I streamed for 12 hours between the two play-in games, almost, or 11 hours. I streamed a lot. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna do I'll probably be back on Saturday and Sunday. I'll pick one or two games for those days, and I'll hop on stream. So if you want to go on playback and watch the games with me, more than welcome. Sam, you're more than welcome to join whenever. We'll have a bunch of people popping in, I'm sure.
As always, I'll probably most of the playoff days I will be there. I will probably be there for the early game in a lot of these.
I will be seated.
And on the weekends, I'll do my Fridays and Saturday nights. I will do my best to be up for the late games as well. So
I was going to say I have this is the schedule. Do we want to pick the game that I stream for right now?
Sure.
This is the schedule. Bucks Pacers is the first game at 1 p.m. Clippers Nuggets at 3:30.
That's got to be it.
Pistons Knicks. I might do that block right there. Do Clippers Nuggets into Pistons Knicks.
Okay. And then Lakers Wolves is.
I do want to watch Lakers Wolves.
I was gonna say that's the other good one. Yeah, that's the other really good.
Maybe I'll do two different streams. Maybe I'll do Clippers Nuggets and then Timberwolves Lakers, and you'll have to hear on the Patreon who we're voting for, or who we're picking for that. And then the other series are Sunday, and they have not been determined yet. But we'll be back for the main episode next Tuesday too. We have a special guest coming on Wednesday. I'm sorry. Wednesday, we will be back. We have a special guest coming on.
We have a special guest, yes.
You do not want to miss that one.
Yeah.
Talk soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Peace.